I'm Robin Crane, and this is the Growing Your Financial Business the Woman's Way podcast. Listen, I was a financial advisor for over a decade, and I got so sick of the old archaic strategies that your grandpa used to get clients. What the industry teaches today is still so outdated and just doesn't work anymore. So I had to find a better way for myself, and then I got obsessed with sharing these how-tos with other women like me. The stuff I teach doesn't require giving up your life, your sanity, or your family time. I want women like you to have it easier than I had it, so you can thrive in the industry. I've now helped thousands of women grow their financial businesses to multiple six figures, some even seven figures per year. So on this podcast, you're going to get an inside look at how they did it so you can do it too. Let's dive into the show.
Holy crap. Okay, this is episode 100, and I am super duper excited because I have Lisa Chastain here, and I thought it would be cool. I don't know, maybe this is like all self-absorbed of me, but like I thought, like, since I'm typically asking questions to people, or sometimes I do a solo episode and then like I just make some stuff up or talk about one thing, I thought it'd be interesting to be completely open and vulnerable and actually bring on one of my best friends, Lisa Chastain, who is phenomenal. And I said, Lisa, just ask me anything. Let's just have a conversation. I'm an open book. And then, you know, people can know whatever they want to know instead of me always interviewing everybody else and asking them all these vulnerable questions. So Lisa, thanks for coming on.
This will be fun. I'm excited.
Fun. And let me just tell them about you so they know how awesome you are. So Lisa and I met because she saw one of my Facebook ads back in 2016, I believe. Yeah, 2016, like really at the beginning when I launched this business. And then she became a FEMM. And that's an interesting story, but we probably talked about that on the other podcast you were on. And then she's just done amazing. Now she's really well known in Las Vegas as the millennial money coach for women. And she's been on CNBC, NBC, Oprah Magazine, Fortune, entrepreneur, all this stuff. So just has done incredible things. And now, you know, she's one of my coaches for my rap program. So we love each other a lot. So it's the best person I can find to interview me and expose me to the world. Here she is.
Hey, everyone. Okay.
So they're not going to answer.
They're very quiet. I know they're not. I know they're listening. It's an honor, and it really is like reflecting on our journey together. It's really cool that we're here as besties. I really do. You are one of my best friends, and you've been there for me through thick and thin over the last 6 years. So I think it's cool for your 100th episode that your listeners will get to know you, your fans will get to know you from my perspective.
That's fun. It's funny that you say like how I'm always there for you, because I feel like I'm such a talker. And just even recently when we were together, I was like, we just spent 4 hours together. And I think I spoke for 3 of those hours. And like, you just got 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, but you're such a good listener. And it's like, it's because which feels very like it's all about me. But when I'm with you, I just want to share everything with you. Like, you're so comforting. You're so forgiving, you're so accepting. And it's really a wonderful friendship to be in, because it's like, I can say anything I could do no wrong. Like, you'll never judge me. You always love me. So thank you for being like that and coming on and diving in.
That's so cool. I feel the same way about you. So I'll give your audience an idea of, for me, the reason that you're one of my best friends is that I feel it's the same way for you. And we're different people. So we're going to be different about relationships. But as a coach, first and foremost, when we met, you were there for me 100%, like no judgment. My life was a mess when we met, a legit mess. And it took a few years to turn around. And you're not only someone who loves me and accepts me for who I am and where I'm headed in my life, but you also challenge me. And I feel like, your journey pushes me to want to continue to grow and continue to do some really cool things. So I don't know what you shared about yourself on this podcast or not. So I'm going to treat this as if you were on my podcast.
Oh, perfect. Welcome to our podcast.
Okay. So let's start with, I'm all about relationship with money. And I know that you're on a mission to help women transform their own lives with money and help other people do that. So how are you raised with, and I don't know if we've ever had this in depth of a conversation, but I would love to know, I know your parents, I've met them before, but how were you raised? What was life like as little Robin?
Regarding money, particularly.
Yeah. However you want to
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I would say overall, just my parents, very, very supportive, very loving, always there for me, so like I had a very easy childhood, like Trevor, my husband, talks about his childhood and how they didn't have money and he had to like go in the closet and eat these rice puffs, when they or a can of corn and things that were like 2 cans. Like I can't even imagine, like our pantry was so full of crap and plenty of food and that sort of thing. And so like, I can't say that I had it hard at all. But interestingly enough, and I've been talking, I guess, I'm making a funny face because I'm talking about recently my parents and the relationship I had with my parents in a way where I feel like has had some trauma, one, because one of my coaches, Alex Sharfin, was like, oh yeah, if you're an entrepreneur, like you have trauma and like a lot of the things that the way that I react in business, and I have a lot of FOMO and I'm trying to work on it, but willing to take like a crazy amount of risk, like things like that it's like, whoa, like, why am I so like urgency driven, like all these things? And he's like, oh yeah, like that's trauma. And so I did some therapy recently, EMDR, which my whole life I didn't do therapy, but this is EMDR stuff. It's kind of a weird type of therapy that Alex Sharfin recommended. And she was asking me about stuff, and like a lot of stuff came about like with my dad. And again, hopefully my dad won't listen to this, but if he does, like I love him dearly. I love both my parents. And when I was growing up, I think I didn't feel loved by him, And so as much as I felt support and I felt like I knew logically they loved me, I remember specific moments of time where I felt like he was disappointed, or he thought I was stupid, or I didn't get it, or we couldn't communicate, in a lot of ways. I felt like, I feel so almost like I'm going to cry saying this, because if he was listening to this, I mean, he's so not even like this anymore. He's changed a ton, but it felt like he was emotionally unavailable. Like there wasn't a lot of connection there. And my EMDR therapist said to me once, she said, that kind of trauma is a lot harder to deal with versus if you were, this is horrible, but like molested or raped, or like you had some like car accident, whatever, because you know what the trauma was versus this underlying feeling that you're just not enough. And I am, again, I'm not just saying this because I'm on a podcast. If Lisa and I were talking, and we talk like this all the time, and I just start talking, this is what I mean. I just go on and on and on. Is like I am so grateful for that as well, because my drive, the desire to help people, even the desire to be liked, which isn't my favorite part, but like it is this desire to serve. A lot of that came from maybe just like we all feel like maybe not enough. So as much as like I had everything and handed to me, and acceptance and all those things, which allowed me to do cool stuff, I can talk about traveling and things like that. There was also this very clear black and white, right or wrong, good or bad, and judgment. And not just my dad, but just my mom as well. Like that kind of was just, there. And interestingly enough, recently, because I've been getting help with another coach, like a prosperity coach named Kisma, she helped me realize like that it's good to experience your emotions versus, because I've done so much personal growth, I'm trying to trump it. Like if I feel anxious, I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Like just focus on something else. Like Tony Robbins says, focus on something, so, and she's like, just experience it. Don't make it wrong, because my tendency has been to make it wrong, And so I've realized like, I actually have been experiencing a lot of anxiety that I would never have admitted before, just not because I think I feel vulnerable about admitting it. It's because I don't want to give truth to something that, like with all the personal development I've done, I don't want to say like, okay, I have anxiety, or I feel anxious, because then it makes it real. And then that's where my focus goes. And then I get more of that. And I believe in law of attraction. So that's a lot. And there's a lot more about my parents, but that's one thing I've been, noticing. And I think that is kind of true in my family, that there's a bit of anxiety there with everybody, especially my mom and my brothers. So that's a loaded question, but awesome question.
Tune into episode 200. We'll unpack.
It's like, no, episode 101, 102, we're going to need about like the next 100 episodes to go through my whole advice. And if you guys are listening and just send us a note, because we don't know even who listens to this and who cares. And if you like this type of stuff, you want to hear more, tell us. Or if you're like, no, let's get back to the juicy, like how to get clients. Let's do that. We would love to hear your feedback. But for now, I'm just going to be like open.
I think it's really great to celebrate you. And I'm on episode 44 of my podcast. And it is a lot. It's a lot to generate a lot of information and have on the right guests. And I do believe that there are people here who really want to know you, not just what you know. So this is good stuff. So you had a good childhood. Your mom was a school teacher.
Yeah, pre-kindergarten. Mm-hmm.
What did your dad do for a living?
My dad was an engineer at AMD.
What's AMD?
Advanced Micro Devices. I don't really know what he did, but something engineer-like. And I think, my assumption is we were living in Silicon Valley, so south of San Francisco. My assumption is, he made a good 6-figure income. And I remember my mom has told me multiple times the most money she ever made was $17,000 a year. And and there it was basically the way that they looked at money was she didn't work until I was 8 years old. So she was always a stay-at-home mom until then. And my dad's money was their money. So my mom would say our money, right? So it was our money was my dad's, the whatever he took home, which makes sense. But then when she got her job and she was working, as a pre-kindergarten teacher and bringing home, whopping $17,000 a year, that was her money. So sometimes she'd take me to lunch and she'd be like, this is my money, honey. Like she'd be proud of like that she's using my money, not dad's money or not our money, but my money. And then, my dad was thrilled because now like he didn't have to really deal with her like shopping habit or something like, and my mom very much likes to bargain shop, but she likes quantity versus quality. So she likes to have, go to TJ Maxx and get her orange shoes that match her orange watch, that match her orange shirt, and then like, so she likes to do her thing. And like, but she does like, she would never spend $200 on a shirt or, a blouse. Like she would go to TJ Maxx and like Ross. And now, especially they're going to go on Tuesday because they get their, senior discount and stuff. And so they're very, very bargainy shoppers, both of them. My dad is more thrifty than my mom, but my mom is also, she doesn't like to spend a lot of money, but she's okay spending a lot of money for good reason. And like, that's basically for the stuff that she likes, if it's cheap enough that she can get a lot of it. And she's definitely the one that was writing the checks for the donations, so my dad was like, cool, now our money can go to the things that we want. And your money can go to the things that I think is ridiculous for you to spend money on, not necessarily donations, but it's nice that he didn't have to carve that out of the money that he brought home. And then, she could write those checks for the donations. And then she could feel very generous with her $17,000 a year and then her little bit of shopping sprees.
That's cool. And you have 2 brothers.
2 brothers, older and younger. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and you're the middle child.
That's true. Yes.
Gosh, no wonder. Never mind. Never felt seen.
Does that explain things? Only girl, middle child, like, hello. No, I felt seen. I mean, I definitely again, they're really encouraging. Like they're the type of parents that would come to my soccer games. They'd come to every swim meet. Like they would be there, but, some of the patterns that I find myself running is so ingrained in me because of how the patterns that my family and my parents ran. Like we used to, I was talking about how, I've been noticing this anxiety, the anxiety that comes up the most, or I'm feeling the most anxiety is in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And when I'm trying to get the kids out of the house or trying to, get somewhere. And I always have these mini goals. I just realized I had this amazing anniversary with my husband and we talked for 7 hours. It was really cool. And I was realizing all these things, not just about us and about him, because we're really working on improving our relationship, but also about myself. And I'm like, man, I set mini goals for everything. Okay, getting a glass of water here and back, or getting the kids to school. And I'm pretty much late to everything, as you know, but I'm not like Trevor, my husband, who's he's late to everything and doesn't give a shit. I'm running late and I'm freaking out, stressed out, anxious, and then I'm still late. And then even if nobody cares, I'm still oh my gosh, that was so stressful. And I realized that was such a pattern. We would eat dinner for most of my childhood at 6:30 on the dot. And my dad would come home from work. He'd put his keys, hang the keys up, put his jacket in the closet. Like I can picture it, like, just come through the garage, put his jacket in the closet, hang the keys up. And it's basically like, already, why isn't dinner on the table type of feeling. And my mom running around the kitchen. Robs, can you, go get the salt, put the milk on the table. Oh, is it okay? Have you set the table yet? So I'm dying here. So much nervous energy. And before my dad walked through the door, I remember like being at the TV, like lying down, like watching the TV, and my mom would be 6:15 going, set the table, to me and my brother, usually my older brother, my younger brother, 6 years younger. So this is when we were a little bit older, but, set the table, your dad's going to be home any minute. Set the table, and we'd be like, we'll set it. Well, you'll set it before he gets home. We could always blow off my mom. She could yell at us. She can scream at us. She can be nervous, anxious. It was just her energy. And it's like, we could blow it off. My dad, it's like, kids, it's dinner time. Like, okay, we get on the sit down the second he comes in, but definitely like, there'd be this like anxiety, getting stuff ready, getting dinner ready on time. And then I think he started coming home a little later. So then it was 6:45 for many, many years, but it was like very much the expectation. We always had dinner together unless there was something, out of the ordinary. And so, this is how I am now, and like to a much lesser degree, but I'm really working on it because I get into the kitchen, I'm getting dinner ready, and I'm not like huffing and puffing out loud. It's all internal. But Trevor comes in and he can feel my energy. It's like, and he's still working, and it's like, he's not there yet, and he does not demand like dinner's on the table by any stretch. It's hard for me just to get him to the table on time. But like, I'm thinking I want dinner on the table at a certain time. It's not always 6:30, but it's like, in my body, if it's past 6:30, 6:45, I can start to feel it like, oh, this doesn't feel good. It's like, and I'm trying to get dinner ready and I'm trying to sort out the kids and I feel like everything's on me and I make myself feel so anxious. So it's been really interesting lately to recognize these patterns. And again, like I so don't blame my parents. Like I think it's amazing what they've done. And I'm so proud of who I am. And I wouldn't be who I was without all these faults and flaws and whatever, but I'm very conscientious of it right now with my kids and how I'm reacting, which is one of the reasons I'm working on it, because I don't want to imprint that on my kids. Yeah. So not all money stuff, but like patterns, really interesting patterns that are coming up that just noticing lately, especially.
Yeah, I think that's so cool, right? So here's why I like asking these questions, because you were like, ask me anything. And I can legit ask you anything about business or whatever, which, your audience is going to get from you because you're such a wealth of information. But when you come into Robin's world, and really when you commit to growing your business in general, you think that you have to take certain action, you have to have certain tools, which you do. But the biggest key to success is the work that you do on yourself.
Absolutely.
And I know I didn't think you were going to let me hire you because I just had you up on this pedestal, like, oh my God, she's so pretty and she's so skinny. And like, she's just, she's got her shit together and I don't. And I was just so ashamed of where I was. And then I like saw you as like so successful when I hired you.
Then you learned the truth. She's like a total crazy person. No.
Yeah. But we put coaches and like people who have these platforms on a pedestal sometimes. And I think it's really great for your audience to hear, like you're like, you got your own stuff going on. You're raising 2 kids, building a business. And
three even.
That's right. Sorry. You birthed 2 children.
I did birth 2
and you
children.
have a teenager, which is even worse. Because I'm a teenager too.
I'd say worse, but definitely I would count that in on the raising side. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And you've had Phoenix. Yeah. And I don't know what your audience knows or doesn't know. So let's go there. Let's talk about, you were a singer-songwriter, and this is a part of your story. So if, someone's been following you for a while, they understand that you were a singer-songwriter, and at some point you shifted gears and you became a financial advisor. And in that journey, you had to do a lot of personal development and understanding what had you stuck. And you went to Tony Robbins, and then you met Trevor. And your whole life shifted when not only did you meet Trevor, but you met Phoenix, because she was tiny when you met.
Too, yeah.
So you are her bonus mom. She doesn't know her life without you.
Yeah.
What was that transition like for you to go from, singer-songwriter to financial advisor to stepmom and wife?
Well, there's a lot of things that happen within that time frame too, that like I had to, I think, deal with and overcome and just let go of too, because I had this, I grew up Jewish, and I had this vision that I would marry someone Jewish. And of course, you don't typically envision your future with, bonus kid like coming along for the ride. And so I met Trevor when I basically was a financial advisor. It was the end of 2008 when we first met, but we re-met like in, I think July, the following year, 2009. But basically I remember when I met him at a Tony Robbins event, and he had a picture of his daughter on his phone, and she was naked wearing cowboy boots. And I was like, dude, it's a little inappropriate, man. But he was just so he would light up when he talked about her. I mean, he was so in love with his daughter, just so sweet. And we totally connected. Like we had this connection, and it's kind of like when I tell the story, and it's been a long time since I told the story actually, but at Tony Robbins, there's a lot of hugging going on. Like you hug people, and he was a senior leader, which similar to what you said is kind of like we looked up to, senior leaders and the trainers and whatnot. So it already was kind of elevated. And Trevor is just this like bubbly, so well, but the audience doesn't, but you think I have a lot of energy, like meet my husband, like it's well of my energy. I have to tell him to chill, and people are like, I can't believe your energy, Robin, and I'm like, yeah, it's nothing compared to my husband. But it was so engaging and so charming and so loving. And he really is like all love with all his craziness. Like he is just, he's just love. And so I was really attracted to that. And I definitely wasn't even thinking about anything, like romantic necessarily, because he did have gray hair. So he looked a little older. And he's 5.5 years older than I am, and he has this daughter, and so like, of course, like I saw off limits, but like, I just loved his energy and totally connected. And at one point, like we had this hug, and I was like, oh, like that was, felt sensual to some degree. And it wasn't that he did anything inappropriate. It was just like, I felt this amazing connection that I really never felt before. And I was actually, I was single for a decade before we met. So like, I mean, I dated a little bit here and there, but I didn't have a boyfriend for 10 years. And I was very much like the opposite of him, where he was always in a relationship, perpetual relationship, long-term relationship. He always had a girlfriend. I was the opposite, where like I never really had a boyfriend, and I wanted it, but it's like, if I didn't think the guy was right, like I was not the type of person to stay with a guy ever, like not for a second, and so I, would date someone, I like him for whatever, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, and then I'd be over it, and then I'd be, done. Or I felt like there were a lot of guys that I was into and they weren't into me, and maybe because I'm very direct, or I don't know why, maybe because I wrote cynical love songs, who knows? But, and so they didn't last very long. And so, when I met Trevor and like, we had this hug, I was like, wow, like I feel something really, just a strong connection. And then I, like, for the first time ever in my life, I actually went home after this event and Googled him, and I found like this video of him and who I thought was his wife, and with Phoenix, this child. And I was like, oh, that's so awesome. Like, what an awesome guy. Like, he's got a great life and all that stuff. Flash forward to about 8 months or so later, we're at this, I went to this other event, and I was actually crewing the event. So I was like on staff, but like to a lesser degree than the senior leader, but we met 8 months later, at this event. And again, we just like connected, and just were like, again, I thought he was totally off limits. So the coolest thing about that was I wasn't trying to be someone I was not. And I really think another reason why I wasn't in relationships is because I pushed guys away. I remember a guy in college who, he was super, super cute. Like, he actually was like this model. His name was Reed. He was like super hot, and he like modeled for, I don't know, probably like clothing. It wasn't like the top, but he was hot. And, at the end of my senior year, we were all like, we hung out and I called him or something, but I asked him out on a date because it was like 2 weeks left in our senior year of college. And I'm like, nothing to lose, because I usually didn't take any risks, especially with guys. Like I was super scared of rejection. And so I asked him out and we went out on this date and we had a great time. Like it was super fun. We actually ended up jumping in the water and skinny dipping. Like it was just like, and not like super sexual, but fun. And he's like, I thought you were into my friend, because every time I hung out with him and this other guy friend, like I'd give so much more attention to the guy I didn't like and basically hardly talk to Reed because I was so scared and so embarrassed. I wouldn't say I was shy, but like I wasn't myself because I was trying to like maybe impress or like act like I didn't really like him. So that was really interesting. And so when, Trevor and I met, I wasn't trying to do that, but it's like because he was off limits, I didn't think there was any possibility for a relationship. And so I was totally myself. Like I remember the first time we met prior, I sang this song in his ear and it was like one of my cynical love songs. And it's like about this guy breaking up with me. And he told me in an email and it goes, you told me in an email, you're such a frickin' pussy, but it used the F-bomb. And I was like singing this to Trevor, like that's going to impress him. Cause I wasn't trying to impress him, but I thought it was hilarious and I'll do anything for a joke. So that was the type of thing, like with Trevor, when I met him again, it was like, I was just myself. I was goofy. I was silly. I was fun. And we just connected again. And then it turned out that he was no longer in a relationship. They actually were never married. And he had this conversation with me at the end. He's like, I want to stay in touch. And he's like, instead of saying I like you, he told me the opposite. He said, I hate that you have soft skin. I hate like really cheesy stuff, but it was like my favorite romantic comedy because I was the star of the show. But he was like, I hate that you love kids. I hate that, you're funny. I hate that, so all these really nice things about me. And he's like, I just want to stay in touch. Like nothing happened. We didn't kiss, like nothing. Like we just had a great conversation. And then, 3 days of conversations, really like hanging out. I remember we were walking down the sidewalk outside once and he said, see those flowers? And I'm like, yeah, like a, bunch of flowers, like a bouquet of flowers. And I said, yeah. And he's like, those are for you. He didn't buy them for me. He just pointed them out and he told me they were for him. And then I remember another situation, like we got in my car. Again, we didn't even kiss that whole time, but we talked about he's like, what do you want, in a relationship? And I was like, telling him I want to marry someone Jewish. Like I'd like him to have a job where we have, like, I was thinking about security, right? Like I wanted benefits. I wanted all these things. I wanted someone who was like, because I had a financial job that wasn't secure and I was running my own business. And like, I wanted a Jewish guy with security, definitely did not have a daughter in the picture, all these things. And then it was not describing him at all. But then, it was just one of these things, like we just completely connected. So for a month we stayed in touch. And then a month later we met up in Philadelphia, where I had a gig after not having one forever. And he videotaped this whole gig because I was like, can you videotape some of this? Because like I haven't done YouTube, it was 2009 and I didn't have any YouTube videos. It's like I missed it when I stopped being a songwriter in 2006. And I'm like, I just want to put some songs up. And he's like, sure. He did the whole thing. And then he turned it into a DVD and he's like spent, we had a long distance thing. So we started dating then, but like he said, he spent 52 hours. I don't know why 52, but hours, like looking at this video and editing it to make this DVD for me just because he wanted to. And he's like, that's when I knew I really liked you, because after 52 hours of watching you sing cynical love songs about dudes you didn't like, and one, you're such a freaking pussy, another, like, I don't want you. And, all these songs about like, I guess we're not falling in love, like had all these songs that were so like anti dudes, or not really dudes, but anti-relationships. And he's like, and I still liked you. And we ended up like, everything was kind of backwards. Like that first week we started dating, I met Phoenix and, he was already flying to California. And so then we saw each other all the time and his daughter was there. So we were like, we had a relation, like the first week or so of our relationship was with his daughter, and so that's how I jumped in. And I always talked about how it's so weird that everything was backwards, because he always treated me like I was another parent. Like he never made me feel like I couldn't say, put your seatbelt on, honey, like, even though I maybe knew her for 2 weeks, like he always did that. And throughout, like, as we started dating a relationship, he always made me feel like an equal parent, which was really amazing. So it was definitely jumping in. Didn't think of anything I wanted. Plus, by the way, he said he was home free, which meant he was homeless. So he had no money. he wasn't making money. He was going through a bankruptcy. While we started dating, within probably 6 months, he went through a $2.2 million bankruptcy. And I was not financially set in any way, making good money. And so that was a whole other thing with the beginning of our relationship with the money stuff. That was a real challenge. That was a long story, but I don't even know if you heard that whole story, probably, but.
In bits and pieces, not in its entirety. Best friend sidebar to all of this is that I really don't think that you could find somebody as goofy as you. And so that you found Trevor is so cool, because my favorite thing about you and Trevor, I love so many things about you and Trevor. But what you do for Halloween, and Halloween is every day in your household. They're always dressing up. I mean, you don't share all of this on Facebook, but I'm on your Facebook page. So it's it's like a regular Tuesday to have Robin and Trevor and the kids all dressed up in some wacky costume, pretending to be superheroes or whatever it is. And it's just the funnest house in that way. So that's definitely one of my favorite things about you.
He is, he drives that more, but I'm super into that. It's super fun. And we just had Halloween not too long ago, and we didn't really have our shit together. And so we went the day before Halloween into Walmart, and he wanted to do the Minion stuff. And so and he's an overbuyer. He buys everything and then he takes things back. And I call it a revolving door, because every time he takes things back, he buys more shit, and it drives me nuts. But it's talk about just in case. He's just in case we need this, got all this stuff, but we didn't have it together because he had to make all these things, because he gets super into it. This is a guy who also made a VW bug out of cardboard during the pandemic. He just wanted to create things but yeah. And so we got all these Minion stuff, but we haven't, he's I don't care if it's past Halloween, we're going to do it. And so he still is working on the costumes. It's now, almost late November. And one of these days we're just going to be in Minions. And so you guys will see that at some point, and randomly, and probably for no reason whatsoever.
Oh my gosh. I love it so much. You guys are so spirited. It's it is the perfect match in that way. And then both being entrepreneurs, I know there's been highs and lows, and that could be a whole other episode. But what I really want to transition to, with just a little bit of time that we have left, is I want to talk about your journey. I don't know to what extent you talk about this on your podcast, but this journey of when you started FEMM, which was in 2016, was your first FEMM, right?
Yep.
And that's when I met you. Was my first FEMM event was October of 2016. Right. You had Phoenix, who, gosh, she was not even 10 at the time. She was still pretty little.
Oh no, 2016. She was born in 2005, so she was almost 11 in February. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So still pretty young. And Connor, my son's 14, so they know each other. We've kind of watched them grow up into teenagers together. But you didn't have Phoenix or Maverick. No,
Sage or Maverick.
Sage. You didn't have Sage or Maverick. And that was something that you really wanted. And at the same time, you and Trevor were, in my experience, balls to the wall, both of you growing your businesses. So you are birthing a business. He's birthing his business. You're both making it to 6-figure, 7 figures, right? And now you're on this journey to have kids. What was that like for you in your, I experienced it kind of alongside of you, but what was that like for you?
Well, I'll tell you this, we wanted to have kids earlier for sure. And I remember before FEMM, when we were both really broke, I remember this one day we were driving somewhere, and we stopped by Best Buy or whatever. And we were in the parking lot of Best Buy, and we started talking about having a baby. And so this was probably, I want to say 2014, maybe. It could have been 2015. So my daughter's 10, and we probably started talking about it even earlier than that. No, it was even earlier than that. But I remember this one day, because we tried to get pregnant for probably 2 years already, maybe something like that. And we couldn't get pregnant, or we weren't yet. We did lots of IUIs. We even tried sex, believe it or not. Still. And then I remember being in this parking lot, and again, we were in debt. We definitely weren't making the money, weren't doing, six figures, and we had all sorts of challenges with money. I was very scared because after, watching him go through a bankruptcy, and then I was mostly paying for rent. I wasn't set. I did hit six figures at some point, but then, I don't know, we had, ups and downs of that as well. And we're in this parking lot and we're talking about having a baby, and I was crying. I was just like bawling. And I was like, we can't do this, because he's talking about doing IVF. And I'm like, honey, like, we have to get financially secure first. Like, there's no way we can do this yet. And he parked the car. And I love this about Trevor. Parked the car and he said, I will never let money prevent us from having what we want, especially from having a family. And it was super scary. Didn't know where we'd come up with the money. I do tell this story a lot because this is it was a very pivotal moment for me. But we did it. And then we went through IVF in 2015 to put 2 eggs in and got no babies out. And so that, interestingly enough, I from there went on this journey to Peru and kind of find myself, and with a coach of mine, an amazing guy, Jeff, and a bunch of people, and came back going like, okay, I'm going to try to do this on my own, like get my health better and, and focus, like kind of let go of this, I have to have a baby now kind of thing. And I really do believe that birthed FEMM, which is so cheesy, but Female Empowered Moneymakers, that's our program that we're so passionate about, that Lisa came in. And it was because I had to let go of like, just, I had to have a baby now. And then I focused on, growing the business. And then by, that following February, we launched FEMM, and it was great. And I wouldn't say it was like overnight success, like this bullshit of overnight success. Like, we've been working on this type of stuff for years and years and years, and struggles and debt and all these things. But then we did have our first FEMM in February 2016, and it was phenomenal. And it like absolutely changed my life and changed a lot of women's lives. And now we're like, we're keep going with this. And now we don't count them anymore. We used to count them, but we have, it's now been how many ever years, 6 so years for it. But that was then in 2017, like in the middle of when FEMM was going great, it was kind of one of these things where like, okay, well, now we actually have the money. We had money, but we didn't have the time, because we were both growing our business, like you said, like balls to the wall, like hardcore, growing. And it was actually finally, after years and years of trying in debt, and this was finally working. And so to then put a stop into that and have to go every other day to like look at my follicles and take these drugs. And, I remember being at like, one of the amusement parks, like shooting myself in the belly, and then, shooting myself in the butt. Like, all this stuff is like, I wasn't that emotional about it, or maybe I was just hiding my emotions, because I don't know now, because I realized I've been like burying my emotions. But it was really time consuming, like, and that was really hard to take away from the business. And then we tried multiple times again, and it didn't work until it finally did. And then it finally got pregnant in 2017 with my son, and it was total miracle. And 2018 like was my worst year since like, before that, like we did like, I think we finally hit $500,000 in 2017, I think. And then 2018, we went down to 300. Like, I had a baby. I was like, what do I do with this? And not just like the baby, but like, what do I do with like being a business owner and trying to navigate having a baby and finding a nanny? And like, I want to be with my family, but I also want to run this business. And there definitely were like feeling this pull in many different directions. I didn't necessarily know how to navigate it, but then, we got back on track, the next year, and then we hit $1 million the following year. And when I had Sage, it was like a blip on my business. Like, I kind of figured out how to integrate the kids into my life and build my business around my life, not just my life around my business, and be able to have kids and get help. I'm totally happy to get a lot of help. But be very present and have a great relationship with my kids while running a 7-figure business. So I always say that mommying is way harder than business, and business is freaking hard, but mommying is harder. And I love it. Love business in different ways, but I'm constantly challenged and on both sides. Constantly.
You are. And you're a great mom.
Thank you.
And Maverick and Sage and Phoenix are all really, really lucky to have you as their mom. They're the sweetest, smartest, kindest kids. And just thinking about Phoenix's naked picture on Trevor's phone, they are always naked, which cracks me up too. Not Phoenix anymore.
Yeah, definitely not Phoenix. And she would hate that I said that on air, but less and less these days, although Maverick's probably the one that likes to be naked the most.
Yeah.
But they're really, really smart kids. Just recently, Maverick, like he's 4.5 and he's spelling backwards. Like he's like, I can spell my name backwards. And like, I'm like, what? And like, he's spelling any word backwards. And sometimes I'm like, whoa, you're spelling it backwards, not forwards, but like, he doesn't even read yet. He's doing this. And my daughter been like speaking since she was, I don't know, younger than 1. Is crazy. But I'm like, God, these kids are smart, but they're also super sweet and also crazy because they're part of the Crayons.
That's right. That's right. Okay. With just a few minutes to go, I'm trying to think.
And I will say, because if Phoenix hears this, she will kill me. She is brilliant, by the way. She's like in like 5 AP classes or something. And she's only a sophomore, because Phoenix definitely needs to know that she is. Phoenix,
you are so smart. And yes, she really is. She really is. And she's so sweet and so kind too.
So sweet. She's awesome.
Yeah. I would love to, I think I'd like to close out the podcast with, for you, what's next? What's next? Like you've had such the last 6 years have been big years for you. What's next? It's
a like to be continued loaded question, I guess. I don't have the answer for that. There are some things I do know, at least we're thinking about. We've talked about this since we've kind of lived in places to be around my daughter, Phoenix, because of the situation. And we moved down to Florida because her mom wanted to, and that was actually great, worked out perfectly. But we kind of feel like, okay, well, when she graduates high school, like we get to go wherever we want. So the goal, and actually I didn't say goal, but the plan, if we ever planned anything, which we don't, is to go abroad and live somewhere because we can, and we can go wherever we want. And Phoenix will be in college most likely, or somewhere around the world, and we get to go wherever. So that's one of the things we do. One of the reasons why we're so motivated to get our business to a place where it's very sustainable and very predictable, and we can make the impact that we want to make, not always having to give up all of our time, is so we can be anywhere in the world and still, give so much and transform so many lives, no matter where we are. So that's one of the big picture things. I actually am in this place, to be completely transparent, that like I don't know which way this business is going. I've recently talked about how I want to potentially own, an RIA and get a firm together and not just help these women grow their business, but then once like actually work with them forever, because it's great to help someone go from 0 to 100,000, or from 100,000 to 300 or 500,000. But oftentimes then, some of them go to $1 million, but very few of them are still like in the program when they get to that point. And I'm like, I get jealous, like, of not being part of it anymore, And so I'm like, and not just jealous. It's not really jealous. I wouldn't actually describe myself as jealous. It's more like, it's the FOMO, like that I feel like I'm missing out. Like I want to see the growth. I want to help them grow faster. And so I'm imagining, potentially like having an RIA, and getting to like take this women advisor RIA to, I would say $1 billion, if not billions of dollars of assets under management. That would be really interesting. And at the same time, you might talk to me next week and I might say, actually, I don't want to do that because it's way too much compliance and way too much, like I don't want more anxiety or stress in my life. And so if it's going to be more stress or anxiety, and I know I can control that to some degree, but if it doesn't feel like it's aligned with what I want for my family and for my life, I'm willing to not do that, so it could go in many different directions. I've thought about, I'd really like to have equity in businesses and help other businesses grow. Obviously we're on the path to increase the footprint of women in the industry, which is very daunting at times. And I'm like, shit, like, I don't know. I can't even get the attention of, 20,000 women, let alone to like try to get, 300,000 or 400,000 women into the industry and make it equitable. So, I don't know I guess I'll end with this, which is, possibly putting myself on the line, but just to be transparent as I am. Someone asked me, actually a guy had a podcast recently after we were on when we're off air, he said, what is it that you want? Like, what does your future look like? And I started talking about like, here are the 4 different paths of my business of where it can go, and he's like, I didn't ask you like where your business is going to go. I asked you what you want. And he said, so if you had to choose and you put everything into getting, the footprint, this is crazy, I'm going to tell you this right now, but if you have to put everything into like you're getting the footprint of women in the industry to 50%, and you're going to have people hate you and criticize you, and they're going to attack you and all these things. If I really took that on, like I say it, but if I really took that on to be like, we are going to have this one industry be equitable, bitches, watch out, and if I were to really take that on and do everything I could to make that happen, he said, but then I wouldn't get to be with my family and spend as much time and with my kids. And already I'm getting teary-eyed thinking about it. I'm like, no, you can stop right there. Because as much as I want to change the world, like I will not sacrifice what I have, my relationships with my family. So I want those things, but nothing's more important to me than the relationships with my family and watching my kids grow up and spend time with them. And it's not always time. Like I'm totally fine, like working full time and not being with my kids like all day. But it's, I want to be there when they have soccer games, and I want to be there when they're getting awards, and I want to be there. Like I don't want to be a parent that's never around. That I will not do. So I don't know where it's going to take me, but I do know family first. And I know it feels like death to me if I'm not transforming lives. So there has to be both. And as long as I'm transforming lives, however that shapes, however that ends up, I'm okay with. And as long as I get to still have my relationships with my family and my friends and the people I love, like I'm okay with.
I love that. You're leading the way for so many, Robin. And I'll close out with this, that if as a listener, you're trying to figure out what your next step is, or what kind of coach you're looking for, who's going to help you get to the next level, what I'll say is that as my friend and a coach and a mentor in my life, like more like a big sister these days, is that you won't find, you're going to be hard pressed to find someone who cares as much and who will do whatever she can to help you get the result that you want in your life. Not only because she knows a shit ton, she's lived it, she's living it. And for that reason, Robin, I love you. And I'm so grateful to be able to interview you today.
Thank you. And thank you for coming on. And this was not to promote me in any way. It's just, but I do appreciate those last sentiments, because it's true. Like the one thing no one can ever knock me down about is like my integrity around helping people and making a difference. And if anyone, there will be people, and there have been people who say, I'm just trying to get money, or I'm just trying to do this or whatever. And like, as much as I don't like it, I'm like, you can say that, but I know my truth. And like, that's one thing that is absolutely true. I feel like there are a few people in this world that care, not just as much as I do, as much as you do, as much as the femmes, as much as the women that we attract, that we work with, because that's who we are. Like, we want to make a difference. We want to make an impact. We want to change the world. We do it with integrity. We do it with love. And we do the best we can, and we fuck up, but we do the best we can. And that is like something I will always stand by. So thank you, Lisa. Such a pleasure. And I know you're 2 minutes late, so thank you for even staying on a little bit late. And thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time. And give us some feedback. Like, let us know how that was for you. If you want to know more, if you want me to, maybe you need me to go and deep dive Lisa's experience or into her life, or what you want to hear, because we'd love to make this podcast the best for you and most entertaining, exciting, and valuable for you. So let us know. Send us an email at support@robincrane.com and let us know what you think about the podcast, and leave us a review. I think like we need some reviews. That would be nice to just see and stroke my ego. No, or tell me I suck. Okay, either way. Well, thank you guys. And we'll see you next time on Growing Your Financial Business the Woman's Way.
I actually have the link for the tag challenge, the appointment generator challenge. So instead, you can just go to femalefinancialadvisors.com and register right now so that you can get 5 quality appointments in just 5 days. Now, this is not around, you having to talk to friends and family and get all awkward. This is not about you having to spend marketing dollars online or create a whole funnel. This is going to be easy. It's simple. It happens in 5 days. If I can get you 5 quality appointments in 5 days, then you know that you can have the best year of your life, because you just need to get in front of more of the right people. We will walk through it together as we do it. So do not miss this. And if
You can, if you're smart, do VIP, spend a few extra bucks, and you can actually spend time with me on Zoom where I can connect with you, get to know you, and really help you get those quality appointments so that you can grow your business. And go ahead, again, register at femailefinancialadvisors.com. You'll find it all there. It's happening, coming up very, very soon. So make sure to register, claim your spot, get in on this, get excited about it, block your calendar, because you need to spend about an hour to an hour and a half a day with me on the Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so that you can get these results. And it does work. The most appointments I think we got in those 5 days, someone, I think it was Dana, got 33 appointments. So you can be my best student and go well beyond the 5 quality appointments. Go to 10, go to 15, go to 20, and set yourself up for the best year ever. Can't wait to see you at the Tag Challenge. See you there. Thank you again for listening to Growing Your Financial Business the Woman's Way.